My magic is the concept of prismatic leadership, of showing people that with a prism, with a diamond, with a drop of rain, you can see the hidden colors of the rainbow when you're in light. Was, when children are here, they have something called a lantern, almost a lantern observational field, right? So they just see everything. Whereas when we get older, it's more of a spotlight, right? Like, I'm focused on the mailbox, so let's just go to the mailbox and then go home. Right? But Shine's like, but there's a snail. What is this snail about? It is slimy, It's like, let me sit for 7 minutes with this snail, right? Which is a true story, by the way. But that got my curiosity up.
I feel like,
and we call that an anthem, right? They have an anthem. Does something called neural synchronization. When people sing together and they move together, their brains are actually synchronizing together, which plays out into them increasing in collaboration, increasing in their ability to shift perspectives to the other person's point of view. And there are actually different neural networks used for people who my brain in-groups with versus out-groups with. And so if I out-group you, it's harder for me to be empathy and to have empathetic connections with you. It's harder for me to shift perspective to see your lived experience. It's harder for me to know you have autonomy with your choices and your decisions. But if I in-group you, I can make stronger connections with you. I can shift perspective.
Welcome to MAGICademy Podcast. Today with us is Genein. Nice to meet you.
Glad to be here.
I just love your name so much. Genein. Genein is a national thought leader and creator of the program called Lyrics and Leadership. You heard it right. Lyrics. It's like lyrics for songs and things that we create as we build music, and leadership. So it's a very interesting combination. This program and this whole framework integrates a lot of concepts there. Neurosomatic leadership. There are concepts about intercultural creativity. There are also concepts about prismatic leadership. She is also called as the America's creative coach. So for the goal of this conversation, we will dive deeper into what does intercultural creativity really mean? What is somatic? What is neurosomatic leadership? What are some evidence-based framework that's underlining all the programming, and why does lyrics have anything to do with leadership at all? So it's a very interesting topic, and hope you stay tuned, and let's get it started.
Excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. So happy. All right. So now let's get started with the first question. Beep, beep, beep. In front of you lands a spaceship, and out walks a very friendly alien. If you were to use one word, one sound, or one movement to invite them to play, what would that be?
Do a movement of opening my body to show welcomeness and to show an invitation to connect. Yes. Yes.
I love that. All right, let's get into it. So, neurosomatic. So there's a lot of concepts that we're going to unpack.
New terms
here. Let's first start with the neurosomatic. So it's like neural and somatic. So it's our brain, our body, our emotions, our heart. Can you help us understand a little bit about the concept a little bit?
Sure. Well, I am an educator by trade. I taught in K-5 for 15 years, ran a nonprofit for 6th through 12th graders, and teaching entrepreneurship, creative thinking, financial literacy. And I also taught at the university level at California State University, Northridge. And then now I do a lot of corporate training, so with adults as well. And so I had a position, an opportunity to really see the entire pipeline, really, from the beginning of the lifespan, even working with people with great grandchildren and things along those lines. And so it really gave me an interesting perspective to say, okay, well, what are the actual tools and skills we need in order to not just survive, but to thrive in this new future of work, right? Especially with AI coming in and we need people needing to continuously learn and upskill and sometimes reskill, right? And so that's where I left the classroom in 2019. And I was really looking at, okay, what does the term creativity really mean? And what does it mean to be creative in this climate, right? And so, first of all, a lot of people think creativity is only artistry. So I have to kind of dispel that myth, right? Artistry is definitely a part of the creative process, but it's not in all of the creative endeavors. You know, you can be creative in any field. And so the definition that we are using is it's the process of problem finding and problem solving with relevance, value, and novelty, right? Highly creative people are not just waiting for their leaders or bosses to give them projects. They're out there asking questions. They're observant. They're seeing patterns, and they're just making connections that a lot of people aren't doing. And so with that, I saw about intercultural creativity that actually came first, and then neurosomatic creativity came. And what neurosomatic creativity is, it's the better joining of and combining of the brain, the mind, which I separate the two. They are highly connected, but I talk about them in different facets. But the brain, the mind, and the body. How can we better connect the brain and the mind and the body in order to increase our creative thinking?
Lyrics. You mentioned about the lyrics. And the lyrics is actually the very beginning. So lyrics and leadership. So there's no way for us to not talk about lyrics.
People love music. People love music. Music, we know there's a lot of research coming out with like music as medicine and music in the mind. There's a lot of neuroscientists just focusing on music and dance on the brain. And I'm trying to just make the connection, right? I'm an educator, but I'm deep in the neuroscience, and I'm deep in the arts, and now I'm deep in business and entrepreneurship, even healthcare. I've done training over there. So I'm just jumping around all these disciplines, seeing where the dots are. And I just thought, why not use artists, musical artists that people already love, and look at their lyrics and find out where are these leadership skills embedded in their lyrics, right? And then how can we get people together? Because, you know, there's an isolation epidemic. So getting people socially connected, even from around the world, and together and dancing to the music, singing to the music, and then doing the work, looking at the lyrics and saying, okay, well, this artist is saying this. What does this look like in our life? They're talking about creativity. They're talking about taking risks. What tools can we implement in our life so we can walk that out, right? What is our brain doing that's trying to stop us from taking the risk? And how do we overcome that to move forward? And so with lyrics and leadership, we have decided that our inaugural artists will be, this is Prince, the icon, the genius on so many levels. And the reason why we chose him, and I say I didn't choose him, he was chosen for us, but just because of his level of genius within the lyrics. He's a great poet. People don't really think of him that way because, you know, we see him as a singer or a guitar player, but he's a poet first and foremost. And he is a philosopher. He is a leadership trainer. And if you look, because, you know, I really didn't grow up a Prince like fanatic fan, and I knew of some of his popular songs, but there's people on this earth who like know every single song. They have his sign tattooed on their body. Their house is purple, right? That was not me by far. But just in the past few months of doing deep research, hours of interviews, analyzing song lyrics, and really comparing it to the research coming out in neuroscience and in leadership training and psychology, it's a win-win, right? He was very just deep in teaching resilience, teaching creativity, teaching interpersonal relationships and interpersonal conflict. How do you resolve that? And I just think that people who love Prince or another artist that we may use in the future would come to learn because it's Prince, but then they're getting tools that they can actually implement in their own lives as well.
I'm fascinated. Can you give us an example, maybe a live demonstration or anything that that will help our audience and our listeners to further kind of conceptualize and contextualize and embody this methodology, this approach?
Sure, sure. So there's a lot of songs. We're coming out with a short free class around and I'm not sure when this is going to be published, but around the Super Bowl time, right? Of what are the leadership lessons that he implemented for his Super Bowl show, which people arguably say that it is the top Super Bowl halftime show ever. But a song that a lot of people know is Diamonds and Pearls, right? And I like that one because my logo is a diamond, right?
Prismatic.
Yes, and I actually live on the street. When you look at the etymology of my street name, it means pearl. So I'm like, oh my
Wow.
goodness, it's meant to be. Yeah, so just that's why I say I didn't really choose him. He was chosen for me. But you know, one of the lyrics is for Diamonds and Pearls. There will come a time when love will blow your mind, and everything you look for, you'll find. And so I can just take that stanza and just say, you know, everything you're looking for, you'll find. And then she sings, take a look inside. So for people to realize that a lot of your gifts and your abilities, you're already harboring, right? So like I'm gifted in teaching. I love to teach. I can teach all day, but I was carrying that gift. Now I had to go and refine it. I had to go get a teaching credential and, you know, and learn how to teach well. But the gift of connecting with people, the gift of using the arts to connect with people, the gift of being around for the aha moments, that is my ability. And I just had to look inside. A lot of times when we work with children, which is the beginning of my career, children show you a lot of their gifts earlier on, right? Your early speakers are the ones speaking up and they won't be quiet. Maybe they're meant to be on the stage in 20 years. Your problem solvers, I look at my own 6-year-old son and the way he's tinkering with things. A man just walked past, he was watching him. He's like, oh, wow, he has an engineering mind. Like, they are showing you these gems. They're already inside of them. And so for adults to realize, wait, have I ever stopped and analyzed, you know, what I'm carrying with me? And so just for us to enjoy the music, right? I'm all about music. I'm a music teacher, but then stop and take a moment and really think about the words, right? And analyze them. And that's what I've done for years with my students in my job. And now we're just looking at to bring it to not just the United States of America, but to the world. Because as far as Prince and some of the other artists we'll be working with in the future, they're global, right?
Yes.
Prince was
The
known
music
all
has no
over
boundaries.
the world. Yes.
Yes.
And for people with different backgrounds, different cultures to interact with the music and the life lessons and the lyrics in their way and then come together and share it. We're all about building community. So we're looking to build an online community around Prince and then about the other artists that we're looking to build this out with. But people want to come together. People want to communicate and socially connect. What greater reason than to do it around a musician who we both adore?
Beautiful. That's beautiful. And there's like more concept that I'm sensing, and then I wanted to kind of unpack. So you mentioned about like the hidden gems of natural talent when we have it when we're little kids, and you kind of mentioned that maybe music, maybe art is a way for us to reawaken or at least help us to start thinking about that. So what do you think of that? How do you define that kind of childlike sense of wonder in adults, like talents? And also it would be interesting to imagine like executive leaderships like CEOs, CFOs, and COO, or the like C-suite people. And what does childlike wonder and that kind of creativity mean to people in that space, and even like startup founders who face a lot of challenges and potential risks?
I think I have a unique position on this because, number one, I was a child, as all of us were, but I also spent the first part of my career working with these creative geniuses who were from 4 years old to about 10. And so I understand it, and I have my degrees in psychology and human development. And so I'm looking at it, and then I'm a mom, right? So I actually had a human grow in my body, and then now, you know, just watching stage by stage. So that was a whole other experience as well, because I was an elementary school teacher. So I got them at 4. So I missed the first 4 years of their development. But when you have your own, you really get to see that up close. So that was mind blowing. And just, because I believe, I love your podcast. You have some great people on, and one of them mentioned, can we really get back to childlike wonder? Because the brain changes, significant throughout childhood. And then you go through adolescence and there's a lot of different brain growths. They called it the prepubescent brain and the adult brain, right? And so I do agree with him there that the brain is, physically different. That's not really debatable. It's fact. But I didn't agree with him when he said, we can't tell people to go back to their childlike wonder, because I think we can. And when you work with children on a day-to-day basis, you see that. For an example, I go to get the mail, right? I'm going to the mailboxes, which is a little bit down the street. If I would go by myself, I would just walk, get the mail, and walk back to my house, right? 3 minutes, 5 minutes top. I go with my 2-year-old, and it's a 35-minute adventure, right? Because he's looking at everything. We stare at a snail. I talk about it in my right there about, he was around 2 years old when the pandemic hit. And thank goodness we were in a location where we were on the side of a hill. So we had a lot of open green areas. We really got to explore the environment, but I had the chance to explore it through his eyes. And what that taught me was, when children are here, they have something called a lantern, almost a lantern observational field, right? So they just see everything. Whereas when we get older, it's more of a spotlight, right? Like, I'm focused on the mailbox. So let's just go to the mailbox and then go home, right? But Shine's like, but there's a snail. What is this snail about? It is slimy, It's like, let me sit for 7 minutes with this snail, right? And which is a true story, by the way. But that got my curiosity up, right? And on my podcast, I sat with Dr. Allison Hoistmeister, who has her degree in workplace curiosity. And she says, Genein, curiosity is the top skill CEO leaders need today. Because if you're not curious, because she said, if creativity is the driver of innovation, curiosity is the driver of creative thinking, right? And so if that curiosity isn't there, and it's a skill, you can develop it. But what people forget is you came here with it. I didn't have to teach my infant how to put things in their mouth, because they are so curious. They want to experience the world around them and use all of their faculties to do so, right? All of their senses. And so we lose that. And what I'm trying to get adults back to when I do my adult training, it's kind of like what we did before we came on air, is to get reconnected back to their body, right? Because your body is an instrument of thought. And so that's probably how I would answer that question. Be aware of your observational field. Try to expand it. Of course, you do have an adult brain. You can't literally go back to your prepubescent brain, but you can intentionally slow down, expand your observational field, ask additional questions, right? Like, I found out the genitals of a snail were in the back of the neck. Who knew? But I would have never asked that had my 2-year-old son not stopped to look at a snail for 7 minutes, right? But I was like, well, let's look at the body parts of the snail. And I found out like 5 new things about a snail that I never knew, just because we stayed and we stopped and we went deeper, right? Into something my brain was like, a snail, it's a snail, keep going. But what is this? And how can I learn more about the world I'm in by interacting with this species at this time?
That's so beautiful. It's like, it's just the act of stopping and observing itself. It's artsy. Like, you don't have to be an artist to be artsy. I think one way to interpret it, like what is to be artsy, what is to integrate art, is observation, is slow and focused, and observation and awareness. It's the process guided by the curiosity, wanting to know more, wanting to switch your laser light back into the lantern light and see time differently. Because a lot of times when we see time, it's like, I need to go. Time is money. However, that limits, that puts that prison, like that put our mind in prison, because we fall below the concept of time. Versus when you are observing the snail for 7 minutes, you rise above the concept of time, where you feel like time is so abundant, and you can have 5 minutes or 7 minutes on the way to pick up a mail. I mean, why not? And all of a sudden, the dynamic between us and the time is changed, and we become the master of time rather than be the other way around, which takes our power and our agency away. I really like that. That's beautiful.
Yeah, and just to extend on the word observation, so it comes from the Latin observare, which means to attend to. So what are you paying your attention to, right? And Dr. Bernstein and his wife, they wrote a book called The 13 Creative Thinking Tools of Highly Creative People, or something along those lines. And that's how me and my son and I wrote our book, I Am Creative, which we call the 16 Creative Thinking Tools. We just like the number 616. And there's 3 more other areas, but what they talked about is observation versus recognizing. So when I come in a room, I can recognize the TV and recognize the radio and recognize that. So I don't have to spend time on it because my brain always wants to save energy, right? But when I stop and observe, there's you interacting with all of your senses and going deeper. You're asking questions, right? And so you get to be more intentional about what you choose to stop and observe with, even on the walk to the mailbox, or going on a hike, or experiencing a new place. And so there's that observation piece, and then there's the reflection and wisdom piece, right? And you had some great guests on your show talk about wisdom. And it's like, I'm looking at the snail. What's cool about the snail or new that I didn't know? And then how can I apply that? How can I parallel it to life lessons in my life? You know, kind of like the butterfly. Let's just use that one because people know that one. The whole from the caterpillar going into a chrysalis, not a cocoon, people, a chrysalis. People mix that up all the time. Moths are in cocoons. Butterflies are in chrysalis or chrysali. I don't know how you pluralize that word. But then it needs to struggle to come out of the chrysalis. And if you cut it open and it doesn't have that struggle, the liquid won't get all the way to the ends of the wings, and it'll fall flat and die. And so you're watching this happen and you're just in awe, right? And especially if you're a 2-year-old child, like, this is amazing. But as an adult, can you watch it happen and then do that wisdom parallel jump to your own life? You can have lessons about change. You can have lessons about being in a chrysalis and stopping still and letting the work on you, right? You can have lessons about the struggle of coming out the chrysalis. Life happens, your brain gets stronger and more resilient when you go through struggle and you have the tools to exit out of it a stronger person, right? You can go through flying away as a beautiful, but there's so many wisdom lessons in nature that we walk right past because we're not observant and we're not taking the time to be curious.
I want to let this sink in a little bit. This moment deserves an alternation of time, and I think that resonates with where we get things started. We're talking about lyrics. We're talking about leadership. We're talking about neurosomatic. We're talking about creativity, and I think that kind of ties everything all together. And we do need help to reawaken that part of wonder and creativity. Especially the longer that we've been on this life, the more help that we actually need. And I would also wanted to anchor everything back into the interculturalness of creativity. And a lot of times when we think about intercultural, we think about the most obvious, like different countries and different maybe regions. I mean, different like south and north and west and east. Usually the geography is something that we first thought of when we were thinking about intercultural. And I remember when we were talking about this in our initial conversation, you have a different way of perceiving the idea of intercultural in a more nuanced way. Can you help us to kind of unpack this idea and develop a little bit more depth about the concept of interculturalness?
Sure. And I love it. One of the reasons why I'm so excited about with this Lyrics and Leadership program is I get to bring up these concepts in in interesting ways through other gates, right? Where people aren't, this isn't just a 2-hour lecture. Let's look at this concept through a song. And one reason, which I do have a purple brain, but by the way, purple,
Cool.
instead of purple rain, we say purple brains, right? One reason why I'm so excited to really represent Prince to the world, to his friends. He didn't really say fans, but his friends, is because I believe he's the epitome of intercultural creativity. He's also the epitome of prismatic leadership. But when it comes to intercultural creativity, we have to understand that when I say cultural, I don't just mean ethnicity and race and nationality. A cultural group is just a group that, you have agreed upon beliefs and values. And I say the theme song is, this is how we do it, right? This is how we do things. This is how we run things. You can have a home culture. You can have a faith-based culture. You can have an ed culture, a tech culture, HR culture. Because I speak about creativity, I'm in so many different fields where I see they have their own acronyms. They have their own phrases. They have their own, KPIs over here, SSTs over there, and ERGs over here, right? These things mean different things to different people depending on which social groups. And we belong to multiple social groups, right? And to be mindful that we are social creatures. So whichever social groups you're identifying with affects your identity, right? It affects how you see yourself and how you see others and how you see the world and how you view just the interactions between all of these micro and macrocosms. And so when I think about like our featured artist, Prince, one reason why I believe, just with my research, that he was so ahead of his time and so creative is because he was intentional about bringing different perspectives and different cultural groups or cultural identities within his sphere. And this is musically, this is just the books he read, the people who he was around, the activities, the projects. He wasn't just a musician. I mean, a lot of people don't even know that his guitar playing and all of the instruments that he did play. And then he wasn't just in music, he was in theater as well. He wrote poetry, which turned into music.
Nice.
And he was a visual artist. All of these covers and all of the visual art on the stage and how you present a show, those are all the arts mixed in together. But the different perspectives that he connected with was huge. And so how do I teach intercultural creativity with someone that people are already attached to? That's how. And then I have people think about their own lives. Okay, well, who are your board of directors? I call them board of directors. Who are the mentors you have in your own life? Do they all look the same? All believe the same? All say the same things? Or do you have a diversified board that will give you different perspectives about your movement and your goals? What type of arts are you bringing in your life? Are you only listening to this one type of music? I only listen to country and that is it, right? Or are you being exposed to different genres? Are you being exposed to people who like different genres, And when we understand, the last thing I'll say is when we understand what creativity sits on, it sits on your ability to entertain different perspectives. And then you allow your brain, your purple brain or your real one, then you allow your brain in the subconscious areas to make those connections when you're not even thinking about it. That's how you get your eureka moments. I mean, they don't just come. You actually have been doing things to diversify your experiences, your people, your arts, your whatever intake you're bringing in. And then your subconscious and non-conscious mind does the work in the background. And that's really all these words you see me coming up with: intercultural creativity, neurosomatic creativity, prismatic leadership, and now lyrics in leadership. That's just my subconscious saying, I love music. I love lyrics. I love the wisdom these musicians are sharing. I wonder if I could attach it to leadership training. And here you go.
I love it. And when you first introduced the concept of intercultural, I was not thinking in terms of different like beliefs or social groups that you associate with, like career, like different career path is different cultures and different levels of leadership in the organization. As of now, maybe in the future it's gonna be flatter. Just basically what you do, what you expose, what we call silos, basically. Like we have different silos, and And when you say like, this is how we do it, and I was like picturing this like music show of like a corporation and different people in different like jobs and are like singing the song. This is how we do it. And there's like different silos like dancing in their own groups. I'm like,
but it's
chaotic.
the coming together. And really quick, my brother currently is at JPL NASA. So, you know, he is a mathematician. My twin sister, we were born together. I'm a twin. Her major was astrophysics, right? And then I'm over here, kindergarten teacher, right? Same. My other sister's a nurse, you know. So, and my mother's a biology teacher. So they are all hard sciences. I'm over here with psychology and education. But we were born and we were raised in the same house, same culture. We're all identified as African American, same home, same socioeconomic status. But because they were trained differently in mathematics, I was not trained as a mathematician or an astrophysicist. Even the way we approach problems is going to be somewhat different because of the different cultures, you know, our school culture, our training culture that we're in. So people need to be very mindful of that. My husband is Black. He identifies as Black, but he was born in Kingston, Jamaica. I was born in Los Angeles. So even though we look the same, completely different cultures. So we're going to approach problem solving with different perspectives because of our cultural upbringing and our identifications.
That's beautiful. I do have a little bit harsh question on that one. About the ability to embrace and interleave and weave different like cultures together. Because sometimes it's about energy. It's when we feel energized or versus where we feel not energized. And maybe there's like a little like underlining things going on that I don't know how to explain. So sometimes when you are able to associate with a particular cultural groups, maybe like whether from the career spectrum or from the cultural spectrum or from whatever spectrum, whatever belief and way of thinking that we categorize. And when we are associated with something that more similar to us, we tend to get maybe more echoing effect and maybe feeling like acknowledged and feeling like, oh, I get my energies from being with people who we do this together. Versus when we are meeting people who do things differently, radically differently, or differently than us, we feel like, I feel like it's hard to get energy from integrating or identifying with someone that's so different from us. I don't know if it's coming from like a biology design, how we are designed.
There's biology and there's psychology involved. Dr. Lisa Feldman Barrett talks about this. She's a neuroscientist. Dr. Barrett says that our brain, and she compares it to a financial budget. It has a metabolic budget. So when you wake up, you have an energy, but you have a certain amount of energy for the day, right? That's why sleep is important. And your brain's job is to keep you alive, keep you safe, and to keep your organs running. That's the first, right? And so when you think about things like intercultural competence, which is your ability to connect with people with different lived experiences, different backgrounds, even different demographics. When we think about intercultural competence and creative thinking, you're asking your brain, your purple brain, right, to do extra work and to spend extra energy. Because your brain's job is to be efficient with the energy. And that's why we have assumptions and biases, because your brain's like, okay, I've seen that before. Here's what's going to happen. I've seen this before. Here's what you could think about it. Don't even think too hard about it. We can just come to this assumption and move on. Because your brain wants to save as much energy as possible for the more important functions. And so we have to understand that if your brain is not healthy, if you are not sleeping well, eating well, exercising is huge, right? That BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. If you're not giving the brain what it needs to function well, it's not going to have the energy that you're asking it to do to reach out to this person who you may not know their behavior, because your brain's looking for patterns. Your brain is looking to predict, like, hey, I know these people. I know what they're going to do. I know what they believe. These are my people, right? So your brain doesn't have to work too hard to figure them out because you already have them figured them out. With creativity, if I'm not being creative and I'm doing the same old, my brain doesn't really have to work too hard because I already know what's going on. I'm in my routine. I've been doing this for 10 years. I'm good. Your brain's like just coasting. But the second you get into a creative act where you don't know what the end result's going to be. Let's see how this has happened. I have to think like your brain is actually working. And so once again, well-being health, brain health, right? We're talking a lot about that. And the Center for Brain Health out of the University of Texas at Dallas is doing some great work on giving people tools just to keep their brain healthy so you can be creative, which leads to innovation. So you can connect with people who may not look like you, believe like you, but you have the brain energy to be curious. And curiosity is a huge thing because it hits brain health, it hits intercultural health, and it hits creative health. Curiosity is across the board. That's why it's so important. And I hope there's more research coming out. And then people like you and me are making that research digestible for the everyday person. Because if you're not curious, you're not going to want to ask questions to connect with this person who looks different from you or who has a different belief than you. Because you're just going to go to assumptions and keep moving on, right?
Yeah.
And curiosity just keeps the brain just fluffy.
Aww.
Dr. Wendy Suzuki over at NYU, she talks about having a fluffy hippocampus, right? But she talks about the importance of exercise and working out. But curiosity is there too. You're exercising your brain. Like, what are they about? What foods are they eating? What is their life like? What are they dealing with that I don't have to deal with because I'm in the majority of this demographic? And how can I find out stories? Either ask them directly or do my own work and do research, read stories, watch documentaries about demographics that I may not have a lot of exposure to. But I'm asking my brain to give extra metabolic energy. And so if I'm not healthy, it's not going to want to go that route. And the last thing I'll say is your brain also is aware of in-grouping and out-group grouping. So if I see you, and if I in-group you because you're a woman, you are joyful, you love to learn, my brain's going to in-group you, and then I'm going to be able to connect with you faster, But if I say, wait, you're from, I believe you're from China, you're China background, Chinese,
yeah.
Yes. If I say, oh, well, she's Mandarin and she speaks with an accent, so I don't know, she's not one of us. So if I outgroup you, there are actually different neural networks used for people who my brain in-groups with versus out-groups with. And so if I outgroup you, it's harder for me to be empathy and to have empathetic connections with you. It's harder for me to shift perspective to see your lived experience. It's harder for me to know you have autonomy with your choices and your decisions. But if I in-group you, I can make stronger connections with you. I can shift perspective. And so I got that from Dr. Daniel Siegel out of UCLA, and he's doing stuff with the Mindsight. And that's so important for leaders to understand that, because leaders who are doing promotions, leaders who are hiring, right? That's why we tend to bring in people who remind us of us. That is why.
Replicating.
And it comes down to this beautiful, that's my book up there. It's called My Brain, My Beautiful Brain. Your brain is beautiful, but you got to know how it works, and you got to know how it's sometimes tricking you into making decisions that you really don't need to be making at certain times.
That's so beautiful. Oh my goodness. We've covered like a large range of topics so far, coming from the integration of arts into leadership. We're talking about lyrics and how lyrics is maybe like a poem, and then the poem carries words and then meanings and something that gives us a venue for us to express in a space where it feels much safer. And then the words that come together through the music and the lyrics gives us a talking point or discussion point.
And then we express through the arts. I want people doing their own songs and creating their own paintings and doing their own movements and dancing. We want to really connect all the arts to the lyrics and leadership program, and then bring people together and let's have fun. Let's listen to a Prince tribute band or whatever, and then let's do leadership training and then go out and do karaoke. Let's really make this a fun experience of learning and living together. and let the music drive us and bring us together and unify us. And that's really, when you think about the music of Prince, especially during his latter half of his career, that's what his music was about, bringing people together of all different backgrounds and having us be unified within love and life.
Oh, I love that. And I just have this this idea. I'm just gonna talk out loud. I feel like every company, no matter how small, how big they are, they need a song. Just like every country has a song. Every company, startup, established companies, profit, for-profit, non-profit, we need a song. And then the song can come from people working in different departments and trying to come together, making this music. And then that could be fantastic. And just imagine the whole world with every group of people having their own lyrics and song, and they can sing, they can dance too, and they can do aerobic activities too. So we connect that with like health too.
Yeah, and we call that an anthem, right? They have an anthem. And lastly, I'll say is that does something called neural synchronization. When people sing together and they move together, their brains are actually synchronizing together, which plays out into them increasing in collaboration, increasing in their ability to shift perspectives to the other person's point of view. And it's huge. I totally agree with that. Every company and department and even family should have an anthem.
Yes. Oh my goodness. So beautiful. And all right. So I wish we could keep talking forever. And I know we are on the time and people are living a busy life. And however, I hope our conversation in this past 40 some minutes creates an alternative space for you to dwell and to relax, just like when Genein was with her kids and on the way to the mailbox and picking up a mail, they spend 5 to 7 minutes observing a snail and learning more about the snail and get involved into the wonder and nature of this wonderful world. We're living,
what a wonderful
we are already
world.
in heaven, as long as we believe it.
I love that. Yes. And music and movement and the arts are a great way to make that connection, right?
Exactly.
And for health, our brain health. And so thank you so much for having me. And I hope your audience goes out and listens to their favorite song. If it's Prince, even better. And enjoys what the arts and what this information can do for them and their health and their life.
Beautiful. And I think before we wrap it up, I would like to have the typical question about the magic. So I'm curious, what did you enjoy creating and playing so much when you were a kid?
I was into detective. Like I would read Encyclopedia Brown, and I had these glasses that show you what's behind you and really looking for clues. And now in my adulthood, I see myself doing the same thing. Like, oh, wait, that's a clue and that's a clue. And how can I make these, like, what's the connection be between them, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I just love detective works, Nancy Drew, but I was more of an Encyclopedia Brown reader. But yeah, that's what showed me magic, is when I could find connections within the unconnected. And now I do that for a living now, but I loved it in my childhood. And there's your hidden gifts that we talked about, right? What are those hidden gifts, those gems that the children are showing you that could possibly blossom into something bigger in their adulthood?
Yeah. And I think an easier way is for everybody to reconnect with your kindergarten teacher, if they're still there.
If they're still there, yes.
Ask the teacher if the teacher still remembers. What did I enjoy creating and playing so much that I just find me losing me in the beauty of time? That's beautiful.
Yeah. That flow, right?
Yeah. So let's conclude that with your magic. So what overall, with everything that's being said, you are out there doing the work and helping people and bringing people together. What do you think is your magic?
My magic is the concept of prismatic leadership, is showing people that with a prism, with a diamond, with a drop of rain, you can see the hidden colors of the rainbow when you're in light. Prince did that with his work. He helped a lot of people see their hidden strength that they weren't even aware of. That is my magic, is helping people come to this realization of, wait, I am creative, or wait, I can do this. And to be there for that aha moment is a wonderful gift, to see people going to the next level because you gave them just not even an idea, just gave them the confidence. Confidence is contagious, just like fear is contagious. that's the magic of giving people that confidence to see themselves in a whole new light and to see the hidden colors and gifts that they've been carrying the whole time. Like the song Diamonds and Pearls says, just take a look inside. It's always been there. Just take a look inside.
I love that. And also to connect with the in-group and out-group, the way that we decide whether this person is in-group or this group of people are in-group or out-group really depends on how you see it, the perception. So using the charismatic or the diamond as an example, you may see this is a stream of purple light, this is a stream of green light, this different, green and purple is different. However, if you put them through a prism like that, you're going to see some common colors. And I think that's the ability to see beyond the difference into the common similarities is where the magic happens. It's uniting. And I think coming back to the lyrics is a way to distill different light into common grounds and allow people to see the commonalities among different differences and divide and separation. And here, this is the song, the lyrics. Everybody can sing, can dance, and can listen and can read the lyrics. Beautiful.
Yes. And going that next step of seeing the commonalities and the similarities, and then learning how to appreciate the differences and learning from, because that's where creativity comes from. It's those different perspectives that the brain is integrating. So that's the next step. It's coming together for the similarities, but like in this case in Prince, we all love Prince, yay! But then celebrating the differences of how are we interacting with the content from a different perspective, and then growing from that, and then finding our one song. There's a great song called the Future Soul song that he sings. I didn't know about it till my research, but it's
Future Soul song.
Future Soul song. Check it out. But it's him singing about us just coming together with one voice, right? But we all sound different. But when we sing together, we're coming together with one voice. And so that's where the prismatic Prince, and that's where that comes from. And that's the inspiration that I have to really produce this work, really represent his work to the world in a whole new way, and help people just see the level of depth and wisdom, but also to apply it in their own lives so they can continue to upskill and reskill in this future of work, where AI needs us to be adaptable, resilient, and creative and curious. Like this, that's no longer a luxury now. That's a must. And so why not do it in a fun, engaging, and artistic way?
So beautiful. Thank you, Genein. It's such a wonderful conversation. And I hope we stay connected. And for folks who are interested in Genein's work, her information and contact are in the show note below. So please get connected. Please create your company, your organization, Anthem, and unite people together. Allowing people to see beyond their differences. It's hard, however, it's totally doable, and you can do it with fun and with music and with play and with dance. Why not?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Genein.